So factor cap. Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence.
Oh my God! Here we go.
Oh, this is a cap. Come on now. Trevor Lawrence easily better than Brock Purdy right now. And just talent-wise, you can see that he's been better. Obviously, achievement side, he's not better. But obviously, that's, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have a good team. We all know Brock Purdy. We can go down the list of Niner greats you guys have on the team at the moment. That it started with one of your who just got paid as well, and Christian McCaffrey, who's probably going to be potential Hall of Famer. So you guys have Hall of Fame coaches, Hall of Fame everything all across the board. So it's pretty, not to say Brock Purdy's not solid, not to say Brock Purdy's not good. I don't know about great just yet. That's still I'm still on MIA on that one. But in terms of him handling his business and playing up to par of what his team needs, he checks that box. But ain't no question right now. Trevor Lawrence is easily better than him in terms of easily right now. Yeah, in terms of talent, easily. In terms of IQ, it looks like easily. In terms of what else we can say, probably all-star level, get box office. We can say all these type of things. To be honest with you, all we need to say is let's just say if Trevor Lawrence was in Brock Purdy's position, the Niners, you guys would be celebrating a championship this year. Let's just keep it as simple as that. If Trevor Lawrence was replaced Brock Purdy this year, the Niners would be champions this year. But that's not saying too much because obviously Brock Purdy brought you to the championship, and he was obviously very close. So before Shaun blows a gasket over there, I'm going to repeat myself saying that Brock Purdy is solid. He is good. He is not as great as Trevor Lawrence is.
Great.
You can just check the bag. He wouldn't even come back. If he threw 3 picks in the whole thing, he would call it a wrap. But he wouldn't come back with him. And versus a good team. So obviously, and they actually fucked off, excuse my language, Trevor Lawrence's first year, basically. So basically, he started off in the negative. And what did you guys start off in? Very, very highly positive. So, let's see where you start off from.
Preach, brother, man, preach.
That's all it is, man. That's capster.
So, well, you guys know what we're going to next. We have 2 Niner fans, one to my right and one directly under me. So, Shaun, I'm going to swing it to you first. Factor cap. Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence. You muted. I'll ask you again for TikTok purposes. I'll ask you again. So, Shaun, factor cap. Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence.
Garry, who was the NFL's passer rating leader in 2023?
I don't really care.
It wasn't Trevor Lawrence. It was Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was the NFL's passer rating leader in 2023, a.k.a. meaning that he is the most efficient passer in the NFL this past season. Garry, what's the name of this podcast?
Politics over stats, whatever you want to feel like.
That's all I was hearing right there. Is all I was hearing right there. I was hearing nothing.
No, because you asked 32 GMs, they're not taking Brock Purdy, bro. You can suck all the stats you want for having a great team you have. He ain't Trevor Lawrence.
So, because this is stats over politics and not politics.
Who's on his team, Shaun? How many Hall of Famers he has on his team? How many All-Stars? How many All-Pros? Tell me. And how many Trevor Lawrence have? Tell me that.
Let him cook!
Silenced. All right, brother. Go ahead. I don't like my guy, Rashad McCancy. Let me go get the body bag.
So now continuing, because this is stats over politics instead of politics over stats, because everyone wants to mention the team that Brock Purdy has around him, like it's his fault that he has good teammates. Okay.
No, it's not his fault.
Oh, wait, Garry, you just mentioned the coach, but you said that Trevor Lawerence would have led the 49ers to the Super Bowl, even though the reason why they lost that Super Bowl is because no one, quarterback to coaches, knew the new overtime rules. So apparently Trevor Lawerence was
they lost because of Patrick Mahomes. What the fuck you talking about? They lost because Patrick Mahomes gave you a whoop ass. Talking about rules and regulations and shit. What the hell are you talking about? Gave him a fucking whoop ass. Don't forget that back in that.
If Kyle Shanahan knew what the overtime rules were,
they would have still lost because y'all don't got the greatest quarterback on the field.
Okay. So Trevor Lawerence was apparently gonna be better than Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. That's what.
No, hell no. You wouldn't have.
But you just said that the 49ers would have a Super Bowl if Trevor Lawrence was their quarterback instead of Brock Purdy.
My pick is obviously Patrick Mahomes.
Stick to something, man. Stick to something.
He would have had a better chance. He would have had a better chance. It'd have been actually a toss-up.
Okay, so anyways, as Gary tries to stick to
All I
something
know
he
is
said
Trevor
only
Lawrence would
5
actually
minutes
been
ago.
the MVP of his team if they actually would have won. We all know he wouldn't even been the MVP of his own team. They would have given it to McCaffrey.
Okay,
So at least
and
I
if
know
Trevor
his
Lawrence,
big team would have been the reason why.
if Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback, McCaffrey's still getting the MVP. You know
Honestly,
why?
no,
Because he's
McCaffrey
the
probably
best
won't be on the
running
team
back
because
in the
he could
NFL.
probably get anyone behind him, and he could probably cook.
So, anyways, Kevin, to
Give him
address
Debo.
this
Give
question,
him IU. Give him a George Kittle, dude. Give him something.
you act like
Get
Calvin
one Hall of
Ridley.
Famer.
He's got a Super Bowl winning coach, Garrett. What else you want him to give?
Who?
Trevor Lawrence.
Well,
Trevor Lawrence has a Super Bowl winning coach.
He just got him. All right, go
What is
ahead.
it, 2-3 years now?
My bad for cutting you off, Shaun. Go ahead. Start over. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. You'll find.
Well, you were
something
asking me
else to
questions
pick up.
though, so that's why. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Thank you. This is stats over politics, not politics over stats. All I heard was nothing but politics. Even when I mentioned that, your response was, "Oh, all the other coaches in the NFL, like they wouldn't take Brock Purdy over Trevor Lawrence. That's more politics." Let's hear some stats, Gary, because Brock Purdy has been in the NFL.
32 gonna take him. That's a stat.
Brock Purdy has been in the NFL for one less season than Trevor Lawrence. And as we know, Brock Purdy's rookie season, he didn't play until like 9 games in. So obviously, when you compare their stats head to head, they're not going to be absolutely identical because, I mean, Trevor Lawrence has had more attempts. But let's just take a look at Trevor Lawrence's career stats. So Trevor Lawrence's career stats, he has 1,750 pass attempts, and he's completed 1,116 of them. That is for a percentage of 63.8%. You look at Brock Purdy, 63.8. And you look at Brock Purdy's pass attempts, 614, and he's completed 422 of them for a completion percentage of 68.7. So that's nearly 5% better that Brock Purdy is completing his throws. And I get it, much smaller sample size. But then let's just take a look at the touchdown to interception ratio, because Brock Purdy's is 45-15. That's nearly 3-1. You look at Trevor Lawrence, 58-39. That's not great. I mean, yeah, he does throw picks, Jaevon. 4 of them in a playoff game. And hey, I know Brock Purdy has had a 3 interception game in his career, and so nobody's perfect. But as I mentioned at the top, Brock Purdy was the NFL's passer rating leader in 2023, and it's because he has a passer rating of 111.4. Trevor Lawrence, 85. Stats over politics.
Stat man. But who you didn't mention, who has a harder division, who has a harder conference. You didn't mention the other quarterbacks in the whole thing. Who is he playing against? Who you didn't mention the Hall of Famers he has on his team. You didn't mention nothing. You just going by 1 or 2 stats that he's good with. Yeah, I would hope he had those damn stats with all the great players he has.
I named every stat. I
hope he has some good stats. I would hope you have a great team around you. I would damn hope, bro. If you didn't, then it actually look wrong. It'll actually look like Garoppolo, right? And Garoppolo even had some good stats with that team. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, as Brother Jesse said, Gary was cooking. And according to Brother Jesse, Trevor Lawrence has better intangibles. I think based on the second message that he believes that you were the chef in this instant. But, Kevin, I'm going to toss it back to you.
So before I swing it to you, Toddy, I'm going to answer the question. So factor cap, Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence, and this is a fact. Because Shaun mentioned some great stats, but the last 2 words that Gary said proves the argument. Shaun mentioned that Brock Purdy had the highest passer rate in the NFL, correct?
Well, you said a fact. You said fact.
I said cap. Excuse me, cap. This is a cap. No, Trevor Lawrence is not better than Brock Purdy. Okay.
Start over.
Factor cap, Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence. This is a cap. Because of what Gary said, his last 2 words, Jimmy Garoppolo. We mentioned that Brock Purdy led the league in passer rating. So did Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's now in Vegas doing what? We had a factor cap if he's the worst quarterback in the AFC. In LA now. I didn't even know. I didn't even pay attention to him. But Gary made a lot of key points, you guys. Niners had the best offense in football.
What about the stats?
All pros, all that. Oh, let me get there. All pros everywhere. You can't have the stats. You can't have the guys catching the ball.
Sean had an upper hand knowing the question, had the stats all locked and loaded. FYI.
Don't even worry, Gary. You know I'm the stat man. I'm gonna come after him. You know, all pro receiver on your right.
I looked at their Wikipedia.
All pro receiver on your left. All pro tight end. All pro left tackle. All pro defense. All pro running back.
That sounds like a Jags problem.
And then there's the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we've seen this Niner team look the exact same with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's now going to be a career backup for the rest of his life. You guys know what the Jags were? Toddy mentioned it when we talked about Trevor Lawerence. Jacksonville Jaguars were a wasteland. No one talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had the number 1 pick for a reason. Then you bring in a guy like Trevor Lawerence. So let's go over the weapons that he has had. Zay Jones, is he better than Jaevon Jennings? Christian Kirk? Calvin Ridley? Evan Ingram, who could even start for the Giants? I mean, yes, the stats say a lot, but they don't say that much because the Jags led the NFL, or they were second behind the Chiefs in most drop passes. So the stats look different.
Thanks, Kev.
Brock Purdy threw 10 more touchdowns than Trevor Lawerence. So we mentioned all the weapons that Brock Purdy has, and he threw for 264 more yards. Trevor Lawerence is the better player because one was taken 1 and one was taken 178th. Is that what Mr. Irrelevant number is? One was picked in the first in the draft, one was picked in the last in the draft. 260 something. We've seen, like I mentioned, we've seen this Niner team be successful. You take Trevor Lawerence out of this team, they're going to be dog shit. There is a running narrative that anyone can go play. The 4 of us can go play quarterback for the Niners and be good because you have the supporting cast. They have a foundation in place. So if you switch the foundations, like Garry, I'm not going to go with Garry saying they would have won because running up against Patty, I've been there. It's a hard game to win.
Or even I agree we can't beat Patty. But anyone else but Patty, they would have had a better chance.
Trevor Lawerence is the better quarterback. The numbers might look differently, but they're not off. They're not that far off for us to make it a complete fact. So I think this is a great debate, but I'm going to have to go Cap. I think Trevor Lawerence is better than Brock Purdy. And Tiny, I can see it all on your face.
Brock Purdy's still not solid, man.
I'm going to bring it to you next. Fact or Cap? Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawerence.
So Trevor Lawerence was the highest rated quarterback coming out of high school, going into college, for all the reasons why everybody thinks today. I'd say from like a physical standpoint, you would probably look at Trevor Lawerence and be like, hey, this guy is better than this guy and this, that, and the third. If you put him in this type of offense, he would definitely succeed. But being a quarterback, there's so much more that goes into just being able to throw the ball far and being able to, be the most athletic guy and being a generational talent, this, that, and the third. There's so much more things that go into it. So to answer the question, Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawerence. This is a fact. Brock Purdy came off of the bench. He wasn't even expected to play. We had Trey Lance go down, who was the number 3 overall pick, and he's now in Dallas. He went down. Year was over. Boom. Gone. Jimmy Garoppolo breaks his foot in, week 7? Brock Purdy is forced into a situation that he had no idea that he was going to be playing.
Forced. He was happy as hell.
I thought the season was over. We didn't have any draft picks, so we were kind of fucked. And then all of a sudden, old Brock Purdy leads this team to the NFC Championship game where he tears his UCL against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we had no quarterbacks, and we saw what that was. So, first year, I don't even call it, it's like a half a year, he goes to the NFC Championship game. Second year, he leads the NFL in many statistical categories that Shaun already mentioned, and leads his team to the Super Bowl. In the second year, really his first full year starting as a starter, he goes to the Super Bowl and was an MVP candidate. I get Trevor Lawerence is, I'd say, one of the better talents in the NFL, but he throws too many picks. I don't think he's a great decision maker. There's a lot that goes into when you're a quarterback. You have to be able to make the right decision and not turn the ball over. I feel like Brock Purdy's better at that. I think he's more efficient.
Kev just mentioned people dropping shit.
For as many times as Trevor Lawerence has to throw the ball a lot more times than Brock Purdy.
He has to. He has no talent. Anyway, go ahead.
Or it's because you could argue that Trevor Etienne is no slouch. Christian Kirk is no slouch. They had
defense. We didn't even talk about their defense. They even have a defense non-existent.
As a number one receiver, but he didn't produce. That's not Brock Purdy's fault that he has a guy in Brandon Ayuk that's able to produce. He has a guy in Deebo Samuel that's able to produce. I'm sorry, that's just the way that the NFL works. You could argue if this guy was in this situation, this is going to happen, but it doesn't always work that way. And what Brock Purdy was given, he took the team to the Super Bowl because he is a really, really good quarterback. And Trevor Lawerence, I think, is a solid quarterback, but I don't know if he's able to not turn the ball over in certain situations. Is he better? Is he able to perform in clutch moments when it comes playoff time? Yeah, we saw how bad he looked for half, and then all of a sudden the Chargers shit down their leg and the Jags came back and won. So I've seen Brock Purdy in multiple playoff situations in his second year. And he's been to NFC Championship, he's been to a Super Bowl. I don't know
one question for the Niner fans.
I really want to compare him to a guy in Drew Brees based off of what we've kind of seen and what he's kind of given, his trajectory that he's on, kind of what he compares to from an efficiency standpoint and how he's able to kind of deliver the ball. Brock Purdy doesn't have a crazy arm. Drew Brees didn't really have a crazy arm. I just think from an efficiency standpoint, he's basically going to be – he's a more athletic Drew Brees. That's why I feel like he's going to be.
Who has the higher ceiling?
Who has the higher ceiling?
Trevor Lawerence. Trevor Lawerence.
If you guys could swap quarterbacks, would you?
I mean,
that was good. Yeah, that was good. That was a good question, Kev. Because then why would you think someone has a higher ceiling then?
The question on the screen, it's not a question. It's a declarative statement. Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence.
I was wondering, so you would switch though, and you think he has a higher ceiling. So you think he's better?
Switch. Okay, Garry.
Why not? A plus B equals C.
I'm pretty sure the Steelers would fucking trade for Trevor Lawrence as fast as
yes, I would. Hell yeah. I got Russell Wilson coming off a horrible season. What the hell?
I'd rather have Brock Purdy.
Yeah, you think he has a higher ceiling too, Vaughn? You think Brock Purdy has a higher ceiling?
I think Trevor Lawrence has a higher ceiling, but I think Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence. It's always about who has the highest ceiling.
Who's going to be better at the end of the year? You think at the end of the career, who's going to be better?
This kind of goes all the way back to
who are you projecting to be better at the end of the career?
What you want him to be and what he is.
Okay, who are you projecting
what Brock Purdy wants to be and what we know what Brock Purdy is. He's been to
I think he's better now. He's projected to be now better than later, everything.
He was an MVP candidate all up until like the last week of the season last year. So, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was never that.
You can be in a lot of contention. Jason Tatum was in that conversation too, but he wasn't in there. He didn't win it, right? Yeah, he had voted 5.
Let's see how good Trevor Lawrence does this year, and let's see how good Brock Purdy does this year.
Yeah, I would hope you guys do better. You guys are in a weaker conference with a weaker division with Hall of Fames everywhere. I would hope that you will do better. If you don't do better than Trevor Lawerence, and like Kev said, this one guy has all the help in the world, which is not credit, not knock on him. He's still great. One guy has nothing. And our numbers are almost the same. You beat me by a little bit. Now give me those guys, and let's see what you do over here. Boy, goddamn, they'll be picking number 1 again.
That's crazy. I mean, when it comes to conferences, like, yeah, it's no debate. The AFC is better than the NFC. But when we're talking just divisions, when we're talking just divisions,
the man beside me just said
that
the divisions are way better.
You really think, Garry, that the AFC South is better than the NFC West?
It's about to be, yes.
You really think that?
The Texans is a way better than any team you guys have right now in your division.
It's a gauntlet.
Okay.